Trish, why don't you just bring us up? Okay, we're having technical difficulties here this morning, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in here. Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
Another beautiful day out.
Yes, it is a beautiful day with all the pollens and everything else. Do you have a problem with allergies?
Do I have a problem with allergies?
Yeah.
No. I used to as a kid, and then I took shots for years.
Yeah.
And my allergies, dust, pollen, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The only thing that really still bothers me are cats.
Oh yeah?
If I go in a
But you
house
have
with
a
cats,
dog. But you have a dog. What's different?
different type of dander and hair. and
Yeah,
everything
yeah. I
else,
think
so
I'm allergic to my cat too. Yeah.
get rid of it.
Yeah, that's what I said. When my daughter, I told my daughter, I said, I'm gonna put it out on the front deck, and then, she said, but Mom, but you love the cat. I said, yeah, I love the cat, and the cat comes to every morning. The cat jump in my bed and wants to make sure I'm alive still.
And
It's
then
so
you
funny.
start itching and scratching.
Yeah.
Are we on the air, Trish? Yes. We're putting audio out to the masses watching us.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know who messes with stuff in here. That if it doesn't work from week to week. I don't know if people unplug things, change cables around in the booth.
But I think
it's-
these things are up here anyway.
Well, we got a regular microphone.
Okay,
here.
so yeah, that's good because
Trish
when I-
takes care of us with that, so
Yeah.
people can actually hear us.
Yeah. So
But I mean,
everyone-
I don't know who changes the settings in that booth every week.
Well,
It's got to be whoever's in here on Friday night,
Okay.
and they need to be told to stop it.
Well, that's why you have to come in early so you can get everything in order.
Trish's. What's that?
Yeah, everybody
Come
come
in here with a
to
big
their
stick and
thing.
start breaking fingers when they
Yeah.
unplug stuff.
So hello everyone out there in Connecticut or in the city of Hartford, because I think only Hartford gets our
Yeah, they're not
public
streaming
access.
us on the internet yet, so
Okay, all
our,
right.
our worldwide audience isn't there quite yet.
Okay,
So-
all right. Hope everyone is well. Yeah, it's the pollen season and it's brutal out there. If you can see all those yellow things in your car.
But if it
those
wasn't
are
for pollen, we wouldn't have these beautiful flowers
I
in front of us.
I know, but sometimes it doesn't help you as human.
I come out every morning, my car is just covered with pollen.
Yeah. So anyway, some quick announcement. It's not a lot. I just want to make sure everyone know about our senior trip. Well, not senior. Anyone can go to Quincy Market on the 22nd of this month. And again, you have to get in touch with the South End Wellness Senior Center. And if you'd like to go on that bus trip, so they have limited space. And if you just like to take a trip out, that's a good opportunity. Remember of all the activities that we have at the center, please try to get, if you have elderly or seniors that not really doing anything at home, get to the center and, there's so many opportunity to do so many things there, teach something or, just be a part of the everyday lives of what goes on into the center. So I encourage you to get involved with South End Wellness Senior Center. And also tomorrow is Tuesday and it's also Zumba. It's also tomorrow is the school board, and the school board is having their meeting. So,
Do you think we're going to have a new superintendent? I hear there's issues with that.
well, we'll wait and see.
She still hasn't agreed to her contract. I don't know how much money you need to make as a superintendent.
Well, as I said, we are a city of Hartford. We seriously have to stop and look at how much we're giving away the city when someone coming to your city to work and you sign a
Citywide,
contract.
every department we need to look at
That's
that.
what I'm talking about, citywide department heads. We are giving away too much to people, when indeed we have people in the city already can actually do that job. So why don't you tap into a resource that you have here instead of paying people or giving away the whole city? Because I know a superintendent make more money than the governor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And all the other added on things that comes along with it.
Plus
So-
the car allowance
Exactly.
and all the travel and.
So,
yeah.
how much more? I'm hoping that the school board won't be doing that. Because if it means that we don't have a superintendent that comes from another town, another state, then we do with
Well,
the one
even
we have here.
The last two superintendents, we've had all kinds of problems when they do their Christmas shopping with the city credit card.
Exactly.
If you're a superintendent and you want to give a gift to a teacher at Christmas time, You don't go and buy all this stuff on Amazon.com to give away to teachers.
Right.
You take your own credit card out, you go to the mall, you buy
Pay
something,
for
and you
it.
say, here, you've done a great job, I
From
appreciate
your
it.
own money, not from
Why
us.
should we have to buy Christmas presents for
Okay.
all the teachers?
We have Tim Sullivan, this lives in this community from he was born and he grown and he educated and all that thing, that sits here in this city of Hartford that could have done the job and they went out and they get somebody else.
Well-
And so I'm hoping that, they're not planning to give the city away, just to have this lady who will come in again and do everything else that everyone else comes in and do.
Well, and the other thing with Tim
Okay.
Sullivan, he's gone through the ebb and the tide of city
The
politics.
school,
Now, his family probably isn't a big supporter of Mayor Segura, so naturally,
maybe that's why.
we can't pick him.
Maybe that's why
No.
it didn't happen.
And
I'm
just so you know,
if
Tim
that's
Sullivan-
the case, I would be very disappointed in something like that.
Why? Why would you
I
be
would be,
disappointed?
because you're taking your own personal issue out and when you have somebody who actually can do the job.
Look at the assistant fire chief. Do you think he was Chief Huertas's
No, but he
choice?
was blackmailed into being
They
in that
take care of
position.
themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay? And again, it goes back to saying, who is your friend? Do you want a friend or do you want somebody who are competent to do a
We
job?
don't want anybody competent.
Huh?
We've lucked out and gotten a couple competent department heads, the police department being one of them. But that's not the way we would choose people.
Right. You
So,
do it because
if-
they're good at what they can
If
do.
the mayor had his choice, we probably wouldn't have Chief Ravello. We would have some
Exactly. Most likely.
DUI arrested chief out of, where was he, Indianapolis or wherever?
And then
That would have been our police chief.
Yeah.
So, which is, we haven't gotten to Zumba and everything
Somebody
else.
is yes tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah.
let me ask you, and this is kind of one of my pet peeves right now. The way the council interferes, and yes, I'll call it interferes with the police department. How do we stop that? Or when do we say enough is enough? Last week, the mayor he got extra money from the state, so he restored the recruit class of 30 police officers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've probably had well over 30 cops retire so far this year.
More than that.
And a lot more going to
Yeah.
retire before the end of the
They're
year.
like about 80 or something like that.
So for them to get back where they should be, they'd probably have to put in at least 2 full classes of 30 officers.
Right. And putting those 30 doesn't guarantee you're going to get them all. By the time the training
A
comes
lot
in
of
and
probably
everything.
15 to 20% fail or drop out, or don't make it to after they get out on the
Right.
street. They don't perform. They can't write reports. They have poor judgment, lack of common sense, and they wash out. But the mayor had committed, and for once I'll take him on his word. He had committed that he would reinstall the recruit class because the money came in from the state. Then all of a sudden, Council President Wooden was quoted in the Current last week as saying, I don't think we may look at cutting the class once again because I don't think we need all those new officers.
What the hell is he talking about?
He's saying that there's more than enough cops that are inside that can come out of the building onto the street, which is ludicrous. Right now, there's probably 7 or 8 positions inside that could be civilianized and put those officers out on the street. But the thing that doesn't add up, even if you civilianize those positions, you still have to have bodies there doing the job. They may not be paid as much as a cop, but they still have
You have
the
to fill
salary,
those
the benefits.
positions, yeah.
Let's just say the PJ office. If you want to hire a cop for a construction job or overtime, or you're having a party at the Hilton, you need a cop there, you call the private duty office, what they call the PJ office. And right now it's cops in there. Sometimes it's cops that are on what they call light duty because they've been injured or hurt their back
Or
and
they
had
need
surgery,
to be
things like
back.
that. Or they've been in trouble. That's usually the front desk or teleserve, but they're put throughout the building wherever they need bodies. So because you take the cops out of the PJ office, doesn't mean you now shut the PJ office down.
Right.
You still have to have people in there answering the phones, doing the scheduling, calling the cops, saying, hey, I got a job tonight, are you available to work? So this nonsense that they say, oh, we can civilianize all these positions. And a lot of them have been civilianized. We're still looking at booking, where you go if you get arrested and fingerprinted and everything. They're looking to do something similar to what Manchester police do. Manchester has civilianized it, and it's almost like a security company that has been retired cops, things like that, that they're not sworn officers, but they take care of the process of bringing people in, bonding them out, and everything else.
But by law, doesn't we have the don't we have what do you want to call it now? We have to have a certain amount of officer in the police department, or it doesn't really make any difference?
Well,
I
that's-
thought by law.
Not so much by law. Some of it's by union contract. They have minimum staffing levels.
Okay,
Like you couldn't run the city with 5 cops.
right.
You'd have to call in on overtime to get cops in here if everybody called in sick or whatever. So there's minimum staffing under the union contract. There's also minimum staffing when we accept federal money, what they call the COPS grant.
Right.
The last contract I think we signed, and I think this is why we haven't used the money yet, we signed that we would keep a minimum staffing level of sworn police officers of 480 officers in the department. We're not even close to that now. If we're, with all the retirements and everything, if we're at 410 or 420, that's
So why aren't we using some of those, we can use that for
because they'd
training?
have to hire 60
Okay,
to be eligible for the money. Because they've let the numbers drop
and they
so
have
much.
never done that.
We've used COPS grants before. We had, when we
I know,
had,
but we haven't had like a group of 60 graduate at the same time, have
a
we?
few years ago we
A
did.
few
Well,
years.
not 60. 60 were back like in the 80s we were hiring.
mhm.
But that's also the problem is they knew back in the 80s when they were hiring record numbers, in 20 or 25 years they were eligible to retire. So somebody at City Hall should have been smart enough to say, hey, we need to keep up because
Yeah.
you know, we hired them 20 years ago.
They're gonna
They
be
can,
gone.
they can retire after 20 years. So in 2014, we have 3 or 4 classes that could be retiring of 30 or 40 officers in each class. So we needed to keep up with that and have a little vision, which
There's no vision. There's
But,
no vision.
but the thing is, you know, back during, when Chief Roberts was here, when President Obama first came in, they had the stimulus money. A lot of that could be used for hiring police officers. But I think at that time, we had to commit to maintaining the strength for the time the grant was in place at 465 officers. And there were a couple times we were high, low, you know, we didn't really abide by the contract. But for the COPS grants, if they want the money to hire these cops, they've got to keep a minimum number of 485. So they're saying they're gonna try to get some more COPS grant money. But unless they get the Justice Department to drop the figures down to, okay, you only need 410 officers, then we could accept it. But if we're not gonna stay at the 485 they insist on, or that the contract insists on,
Then
we
that
have,
means
we have
we're
to
gonna
turn
be
the money back.
giving the money back. But that's kind of sad because I think you were the one that mentioned that they have over 300 applicants for the department. You're
The
gonna
last
take
number
out of those.
The last number I was told is that there were over 400 applications sitting at City Hall that hadn't even been touched yet. And it was either 12 or 14% of those, so 50, 60 applicants, were qualified, or were Hartford residents that they expected to be qualified. They passed the test, they got the application in. Now, I don't know where they stand on psychologicals, backgrounds,
Right, they have to do
polygraph.
all those
There's a
tests.
lot of things that could knock people out of the running,
Right,
you know, any kind of arrest record, depending what
Right.
it is. But to say we want to hire police officers that resemble our neighborhoods, and then they go out, they do a good recruitment effort, they get over 400 applications to come in, and nobody touches them, that's an insult, because nobody is gonna, you know, if the first time you ignore them, they're not gonna come back and say, okay,
Yeah, there's
slap
other
me in the face
places
again.
that you can go
you
and
know.
apply too.
And they do.
You know.
You know, very few people would apply just to Hartford.
They
Hartford is
might
where
come-
they want to go for
First come,
experience
first serve,
and the
yeah.
action and everything else,
Yeah.
but they're also looking at making a living. And if you look at our suburban town, you know, Farmington, Avon, Simsbury, the working conditions are much better, the violence is much lower,
Well, it's much different. Yeah.
and you make a lot more money.
So when you have people wanting to come here and do the job, I think it's just the right thing. So most likely it's the city, maybe human resource area that's holding up all of this.
But that goes back to my original question. Why does the council see the need to interfere with the police department? You have
That's something I can't understand why Ken Kennedy put out something there, and the argument that they were making there
Ken
was.
Kennedy hates the police
Yes,
department.
I noticed that.
I know what the agenda is, I know
Yeah.
what the issue is, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
go into it here, but he is not supportive of the police department with an open
Right.
mind.
And then they
being
brought up
objective.
this thing about at the council, it was public, that, oh, I know this fellow that applied for the position, and he didn't get it because of his credit or something like that. And he was upset about the fact that this guy got turned down because his credit was bad. But I don't think he probably.
But I think that's across the board.
Yeah, I don't know if.
And and nobody explains the reasons for this. If you have police officers that are in financial troubles, their credit's been bad, they're struggling to pay their mortgage, they're struggling to pay their cars. They're tempted every day when they go into drug houses or search warrants. There's sometimes tens of thousands of dollars in cash laying on a kitchen table because people are running a drug operation. If you've got an officer that's in credit trouble or in financial trouble, it's not inconceivable they could pick up a stack of a couple $1,000
because they're so in need
and stick it in a pocket or a coat. It's happened in the past, and it's going to happen in the future. And one way to try to prevent that is make sure are they a credit risk?
Right.
Are they having financial trouble?
And then for Cynthia to say, okay, our officers they don't have to be smart to become officers. They
have a low skill set.
Yeah, low skill set.
And they're overpaid.
And so,
Which, that's got to be insulting because Cynthia's father retired as a lieutenant from the Connecticut State Police before he passed away. So that really discredits her father. Are we saying her father he had low skill sets?
Yeah. I think she made a bad judgment by using that word.
I would expect her to say, I support our police officers. My father was a retired state police lieutenant, and he was one of the smartest people I know.
Right, and he was a minority, maybe.
And he got there with hard work.
Right.
Back when he was made a lieutenant, I'm sure it wasn't the same opportunities for minorities that there is now.
Yeah, I think the way they're looking at it in general is they're thinking, you look at the police department force, and they don't look like the people of Hartford. But the point is that when you do an exam for a police department, I don't think they look at you because you're black, pink, or white. I think it goes by criteria, right? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be?
Some of these things, it's like grant money. Some of them are blind. They don't know the name of the person applying. They don't know their race, whatever. I don't know if that's the way the hiring is done. But I'm pretty confident there's a scoring sheet. What did they score on their psychological? Did they have any questions the psychologist said were issues? Did they appear to be homophobic or racist or anything came out in their exam? The polygraph, your test, on your truthfulness. I think that's kind of a pass or fail. The written test is important. There's another thing called the chip test where you have to go to. It's an outside firm, but where they used to do the agility. You used to come to one of the high schools. How fast can you run? How much can you drag? Things like that. Now it's an outside firm that they have to pay to go to, who puts them through their paces. How many sit-ups can they do? How fast can they run? Things like that. So there's a whole scoring criteria. The background investigation is a big part of it. You have an interview with the chief, which is a big part of it. The chief actually sits down, and not just this chief, but every chief for years, actually sits down with the candidates. You come in for a chief's interview, and they're gauged on a lot of different things. Are you comfortable talking? How, you explain yourself. Did you come in with jeans and a t-shirt on? Or are you dressed like a professional in a suit and tie? There's a lot of different things that go into it. So,
well, the way that I was saying, it's almost like, all right, so the city is the one that's hiring, not the police department. I feel like the police
eventually
department,
it is the city, but the police department does everything up to the point where you get your offer of employment.
So how can the council be accusing the police department of who's been hired?
Because this council, you're my friend, you applied to get a grant for your NRZ, and you didn't get it. It's easy for us to sit here and say, she didn't get it because she's vocal, they don't like her at City Hall. But what's the scoring criteria? Did they look at the demographics, who you help, how many people come to your meetings? So it'd be easy for us to say, she didn't get it because the mayor doesn't like her. She's not kissing the mayor's butt, so he's not going to give her grant money. But if people actually looked at it and explained the process and said, here's a scale of 1 through 50, Hyacinth got a 48. She was close, but we got a couple 50s that came in and got the money. And this is one of the things we don't do. We just sit there and say, police department's bad. Their overtime is too high. Well, why is their overtime too high? Is it maybe because you're not allowing them to fill positions that need to be filled?
Right.
If you've got to have 22 officers on the street, but so many have retired that just on a regular shift you can't fill it, so you've got to bring officers in on overtime. That's why your costs
Yeah.
are so high, because
Exactly.
you're being short-sighted and not filling the police positions.
Right. And as you say, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. The guys that I knew in the 90s, they're all gone. Maybe one or
Oh,
two
yeah.
are still hanging around, but they're just waiting for the opportunity to be gone, you know? And I'm just saying, how much more are we going to be brain drained from the police department?
And the difficult part is, you know this, you don't just hire a police officer tomorrow and they're
Put him out
out in your
there.
neighborhood as a superstar.
Yeah.
It takes years for them to know the people, get comfortable, develop that sixth sense that you can almost tell when something's going wrong just by the way the person is acting or body language. You don't get that the day you walk out of the academy. They
Right.
can't teach you that in the police
Something
academy.
you learn as
They
you
teach
go
you the
along.
books. They teach you statutes, civil rights, powers of arrest, how to,
Procedures.
constitutionality. They cannot teach you common sense in the police academy.
You gotta
It's something you
learn.
have to develop,
You got to earn.
and it takes years to do that out on the street. So I'm not sure why we only see this micromanagement of the police department. I never hear it about the fire department. I don't hear it about the health department. I don't hear about youth and families. And those are all
No, I
departments.
just think because you have a certain sector of the council
Because
that
the
do
police
not
are the
like
bad
the
guys.
police chief. They don't
Exactly,
like the police
yeah.
chief, so because of that, they just kind of portray everything and it goes down. Well, the good thing, I know Kyle is trying to stand up. I'm not sure if it's just
I'll
a
believe it when I
facial
see it.
thing or it's just something. I'm not sure if it's genuine or anything like that.
We'll know soon enough.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? I mean,
And Kyle is only one person on that council.
right.
I know the council president, well, he told me he did. Once Cynthia Jennings made her comments that the cops had low skill sets and were overpaid, according to the council president, at the first break in that meeting, he claims he told Cynthia, you need to apologize because that was wrong what you said. And from what Chief Ravella tells me, she did later on in the meeting make some sort of apology for what she said. She should have been up at the police department apologizing to every cop that walked out the door up there.
Yeah, that kind of statement just said a bad thing.
what
it's
if
like
we
mean
made-
that you don't have to be educated to be in our department. It's like
Until
that's
you
kind of
until you call the cop and you expect an educated person to show up at your door and take care of the situation without making it worse.
yeah.
Nobody likes cops until they need them. You don't like the cop when he pulls you over for running through the red light. You don't like the cop when he shows up at your house for the domestic violence incident and arrests you. Very few people have positive interactions with cops. You're usually dealing with a police officer under the worst of circumstances. You either got robbed, you came home, your house was burglarized, you're had a few too many drinks, and you get pulled over for DUI. These aren't things that make you love the cops. But you see the other side of it all the time. When
Yeah,
you have
because-
issues that nobody else is addressing,
Right, and
and
because
the police can fix it.
right, and because our team in the South, it's their strive is to make sure they build a relationship with the resident, and that's why I like about our team in the South End because they know that's the only way you're gonna get the job done is if you build that team. That's why it is critical
But that's
for
a two-way
us to
street,
have.
too.
Yeah, it's critical to have community service officer over anything, over patrol or whatever the case may be, because patrol don't tend to you when you call them right away. They come in and, oh, well, what is it, mom, whatever, and they do and they go. You don't build any relationship with them.
But it's also the type of thing though where they're numbers driven. They look if you never stop a car in your career, people notice that. If you're out there making traffic stops every day, if you're solving cases, you're taking guns off the street, trust me, the police administration notices that. They know who's doing their job.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the relationship with your officers in the South End and the community make their jobs a lot easier.
Exactly.
People are calling saying, hey, Teddy, I saw this blue van parked in my neighbor's driveway, and it's been in the neighborhood the last few weeks. Teddy goes back and says, geez, we've had a lot of burglaries over there. So he starts looking for this blue van that your residents have pointed out to him, and all of a sudden he finds it one day loaded up with televisions and electronics and things like that. he's probably solved 15 or 20 burglaries.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot in your area where you have that
Communication.
two-way communication.
Yeah, communication.
Even drug dealing, hey, I noticed there's cars pulling
Robberies.
up to this house on Broad Street at all hours of the day and night.
Yeah.
And nobody really gets out. They just run up to the car, they talk, and then they drive away. Well, that's a good indication there's drug dealing going on.
Yeah.
So now they have information that they can keep an eye on this certain neighborhood and make a difference. So it's very important that we have those decent relationships. But I guarantee you, if we didn't have the Department of Children's and Families or the Health Department, Health and Human Services, if we got rid of them tomorrow, which we wouldn't, because they bring in a lot of federal money and do other things also with Medicare,
Yeah,
Medicaid. But I'm just saying, if we got rid of them, nobody would notice right away. If we got rid of the police department,
They know this right away.
you would know within hours
Yeah.
that something was wrong. So I don't know why we mess with that. It's the same thing with education. We allow education to be so poorly administered. But public safety and education are the two things that are going to turn the city around. If people don't feel safe and we aren't educating children, we want to talk about a qualified workforce.
Yeah.
If we're not teaching kids how to read and write, we're
Yeah,
not going to
but-
have the results
Yeah, but
we
we
need.
can't, definitely we need to get them ready, but we gotta start at an early age to help these kids. So when they get to middle school or high school, they're not, we're not graduating them because
that's-
they say they're graduating.
That's
You
another
have to-
big issue.
You have to graduate kids and they have a vision of going somewhere higher than just, okay, I graduate them, but no, what next?
But we're
Because
not graduating
They're
them.
not qualified.
That-
Oh, but did you see the other day in the paper where?
Well, that's what I was gonna talk
The
about.
mayor says we have 71% graduation rate. Well, I'm just trying to
What
figure
does
out.
that- what does that say?
Who are those that he's talking about? Because I know for these high schools, the regular, what they call community high schools, we are not producing what we're supposed to
But
produce.
again, it
Nothing
comes
is
down
good.
to, okay, we're graduating 71% of our high school students now. What's the flip side of that? We're still failing almost a third of them, 30%.
Well, I think
So
it's
how can you
more.
be proud of that? Could you, if you only kept 2/3 of your customers happy, would you be in business long? You want to go for 100%. Now, I know education has been so bad, it's been so mismanaged, where there's no consistency, we'll do something for a year or two, that's not working, change, let's go in a
Change
different
it. We
direction.
don't give it the
That
chance.
superintendent's not doing their job, let's get rid of them, even though they
But
may have
at
brought
one
some
point is
stability.
I have to continue to say, we don't put the resource to make it work. Don't tell me to
I don't know
run
if
a
we don't
building.
make the resources.
No, if you go into here, you have to look at the tools. Go into a magnet school and see how they're placed.
Well, that's the only reason the numbers are coming up is because of magnet schools.
Right.
The magnet
But-
schools, when you throw them into the average, they pull the average up.
Right.
If we were just figuring it based on Hartford High, Buckley, and Weaver, I don't think our numbers would have improved that much because we're not doing as much for those as we are the magnet schools.
Right. But you see, the aim is you segregate these kids. Let's not worry about these kids that can't read because you know what, they're disruptive, there's issue there. Okay, so let's bring in the ones that have some talent and take them and put them over here in the magnet school.
But-
because you know their focus is they want a good education. But how do we do that? When you look at these overwhelming amount over here are disruptive kids are majority than these are over here in the magnet.
But how many of the magnet schools, even though the buildings are physically in Hartford, how many of our students actually go to those magnet schools? And the reason I ask that is we've already got a generation of Hartford kids whose parents are borderline illiterate.
Right.
They can't read, they can't write. They're working in low-income jobs, hopefully making minimum wage. But now we're creating a second and third generation.
Yeah, a different
because
sector.
those same kids whose parents can't read and write, now they can't read and write.
So you
they'll
have-
eventually be having kids that
That-
they can't teach them how to read and write.
Exactly.
So how far do we allow this cycle to go before we
that's-
start saying fix
And
it?
that's why now the governor and the mayor and the Board of Education are trying to work together to say, let's do a pre-K program that mandates all kids, little kids to get into school, before even 5, say 3 years old. So you can have that development going on, whether it's.
Yeah, but how many years did you spend in pre-K?
We just go to kindergarten. We didn't
Right.
go to pre-K. but we are dealing with a different generation. I
But
mean, my
that's-
kids didn't
that's
go to
my-
pre-K, they went
No.
right into kindergarten.
And they had a mother that probably sat down with them and to read and write, or at night doing the flashcards, the multiplication
Right.
tables, things like that.
Right.
That's how we learned. We never went to nursery school.
No, no.
And we went to kindergarten and started.
Oh, my God.
But probably, and I don't remember this, as a fact, but probably we're in a pretty good position reading and writing when we went into kindergarten.
Yeah,
Because our
that's-
mother had already worked with us
Yeah,
on all
because
that.
it start at home, start at home. And those are the critical piece, because I think we're completely missing the whole point here about education. Yes, you want to have teachers who are ready to teach 30 kids every 45 minutes or whatever the time is, and these kids. But the point is, if you have 34 or 30 kids in a classroom and not all of them are ready to learn, then your attention is not going to be on the kids that can learn. It's going to be on the attention of the kids that cannot learn. So you lose out, in a lot of ways.
Another issue is whether it's the police department, fire department, education, we've allowed our unions to dictate how the
Well,
operation is going to be run.
That's another situation that we need to seriously work on. Every contract that this city has, there need to be people that is really good to work on this contract. And, as I always said, now we're in a deficit, we need this, we need that, of course, because every year or whatever we have to do a percentage of, because the contracts call for those kind of things. But I think we need to look in general at the economy in general.
But who negotiates these
That's what I'm
contracts?
saying. I wonder how competent that person is.
The recent police contract, which gave away an awful lot, it took some back, but it gave away a lot more, I think, was negotiated by the mayor's former chief of staff, Jared Kupiec.
And how competent was he to
He's not a
agree
labor.
on?
He's not a labor leader or a negotiator.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It goes back to who is the people that actually sitting down at the table and saying, well, the economy doesn't look all that good. Maybe if it gets better, then we can adjust the things like that. But you can't say I'm going to give you 10% raise over the next 2 years when indeed our economy not getting any better.
But these are the collective bargaining agreements we're talking about. Cost the city millions. You're not talking about giving somebody a 20-cent an hour raise.
Right.
You're talking about pensions, long-term benefits, health care after they retire. How is that handled? So it potentially costs us millions of dollars.
Right.
We're not.
And it goes back again too, as I said, if our economy is not stable, we have, as you know that, we have the lowest home ownership rate in the state, right? And everything that comes out has to come from our tax the little businessman, tax the little homeowners, and how much of it can you bear to make sure everybody gets what they need?
I think that's the issue the city needs to look at now, is how much more can you raise the mill rate
Exactly.
before you start having a lot more abandoned properties, people walking away saying, I can't afford it.
And when you don't have, when you have abandoned property or you have property that's in foreclosure, your money is not coming in.
Well, yeah, you're not
Okay,
getting
so
rid of
where is that money coming from? Seeing that, as you say, as we know, is 51 or more percentage of our building belongs to the state, which we're not getting it fully paid. So therefore, it leaves us in a bad situation. So we're not in any position to take on, big contracts and say, this is what you're gonna get over a period of time, because we can never be sure.
Well, the other issue is that, as people start abandoning properties, if those are business properties, you're also losing the jobs that go along with them.
Exactly, so people continue to, it's a chain reaction.
And that's, it's been a snowball effect that we've had for years. And there's nobody at City Hall that's gonna say, we're gonna stop this. The council has the opportunity to do it with this next budget and say, we're looking to cut 10 million out of the budget. Why is the mayor allowed to have all the money in his budget and COO that's not even authorized under charter? So they need to say, we're reining government back in, we're cutting our expenses, we're stopping the spending, the wasteful spending, and that's the way we're gonna start turning this city around. Those are like Republican ideas, they're
Right.
not Democratic ideas, but it's time to start thinking a little more fiscally prudent. Look at, even at the Board of Education. The superintendent announces she's leaving. Okay, fine, goodbye, here's the door.
Right?
But then we cut a deal to
With
pay
somebody
her
else.
all this time, you know, this
Yeah,
shouldn't even have on the books. We
Shouldn't
bought
you
it.
say, excuse me,
You're the one
get
screwing
going on.
us. You can go.
Exactly.
We don't need you.
But we do this thing over and over.
But
Why can't we
But
learn?
the other crazy part is, if you think if the president at Aetna or Travelers or any business, somebody says I'm leaving, you've got a vice president ready to take their spot.
Take the position.
Now, why in Hartford did we have to go out and hire a woman at $900 a day to come in as kind of an acting superintendent when we've
When
got
we
all
have
these
one, two,
special
like
assi-
about three persons.
Oh, you got her. Special assistants for this, director of that,
Right.
assistant
Just put
superintendent for
somebody like
this.
that in place, okay?
I
Now-
would hope that we're training those people, that if the superintendent drops dead tomorrow, we've got somebody that we can put right
I
in that
think,
spot.
here's what I think would happened there. It so
Trish was
happened
freezing,
that.
you're sweating.
I know, it's
What's
heat
going on
in
here?
here, it's heat, I mean, I have a long sleeve on. The thing is with that, I heard they had a surplus at the board. And that's why probably they were doing that.
Well, don't
Because-
put it into the bank account for a rainy day. Spend it.
Yeah, that's what they do at the end of the
Well,
day.
citywide, they do that. You know, the emails will go out in the next couple of weeks. You know, you've got X amount of dollars in your budget. If you need paper products, or you need books, or you need this, you need computers, spend it so we don't give the money back at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Now, that's just crazy.
I'm just wondering how I can get that printer. I haven't offered high fixes yet. And it's over a year now, okay? So, you know, that's what I'm saying.
You're gonna have to print some money off.
With all that money, that excess money they have, this is what they're probably using. But I'm still saying, if you have an assistant superintendent, use this person. Why are you paying
But you-
this person all these years?
But you have nobody with business experience. That's the problem. If you ran your business or I ran my business, you know, we're not millionaires. But if we didn't do the things that needed to be done every day, do some of the jobs ourselves that we don't contract out, we'd be out of business. The city way is just, you know, don't make that truck last for another year. Go out and buy another $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 truck.
Yeah. So.
When's the last time you bought a new vehicle for yourself?
I
or a new
can't,
vehicle?
my vehicles are like 2,000.
Yeah, and you keep them running.
2,000.
You keep them running, you keep them on the road because that's what you have to do.
That's what you gotta do.
The city doesn't, the city just spends money, you know. and-
So anyway, let's get into the politicking thing. I mean, there's a lot of convention and there's a lot of endorsement and a lot of all these things that's going on, lots of fundraisers and all that gimmick and all that. So what's your take on what's going on in general? We still haven't had anybody coming forward for anything new, anybody new,
Well,
coming out of the road.
We have, but it's not easy to break into politics. People are set in their ways. They don't want to see change because, especially in Hartford, many of the people involved in politics have taken very good care of themselves and their family and friends. They don't want somebody that's new that's going to come in and upset that. You know, we know all that all too well in the 7th District. And I don't see the new 7th out there anywhere. They weren't at Governor Malloy's fundraisers, the last two he's had. I just hope they get out there and work a little bit harder for him when the votes really count. But it would be nice to see some support for, especially the governor. You know, the rest of the constitutional officers for the state, I don't see where they make a big difference for us. Whether it's the treasurer, comptroller, even the attorney general. The governor is somebody that really cares about Hartford, has done a lot for Hartford. Even though I think the relationship between the governor and the city administration for the most part is non-existent. The governor still goes out of his way, and we've got a good legislative delegation for the most part. You know, Brandon McGee, Matt Ritter, Doug McCrory, Angel Arce. If I could get Angel Arce to run for mayor, I would do that in a heartbeat. Ed Vargas did a lot of hard work his first session down there. They're all up for re-election, so I'm not too thrilled with our senators. Well, one of our senators in the South End, Senator Coleman. I think he's in a powerful position because of his time in the Senate and also as being the chair of the Judiciary Committee. That's a position that nobody becomes a judge or a state's attorney without going through judiciary first. Also, I think it has a lot to do with getting bills introduced. But I wish we would get people involved in politics for the right reasons. Because they want to make a change, they want to see a better government. And that's
Not just to line their pocket and secure and their friends. You know, everybody knows that.
But that's a big part of politics in Hartford, who gets what. Even at some of the fundraisers, you see people showing up that have their hands out for more grant money and things like that. It's not about
That's my phone.
top secret call.
Yeah.
It's gotta be somebody from Washington or something,
that's
she hit her phone.
No, somebody from my family.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple things, one thing, it was a suicide run, I knew it was gonna be a suicide run. But somebody, we both know that I'm very impressed when it comes to his political common sense and his integrity. Knowing that his word is good is John Phillips, who was on the town committee with you for a while in the 6th district. Then he moved
But
downtown.
he moved downtown, so he has an opportunity to get involved.
Well, no, he moved downtown to a new apartment, so he was no longer in the 6th, so he dropped off the town committee. And even after his short time involved, I don't think he cared too much for what was going on. But he tried to run, and again, it was a suicide mission, but he was trying to get the Republican nomination this past weekend to run against John Larson.
And what happened? Did he get it?
No, the city
Why
of Hartford,
not?
the Hartford Republican Town Committee screwed him over essentially.
Well, because who's on this Republican thing? Because even Rico said he tried to get a nomination. We know Rico, what Rico is. But even he said he didn't get it.
But see, this is where the diehard dinosaurs on the Republican Party don't want any infiltration. The same as the Democrats. But John, if I had to look at the future of the Republican Party, John's probably it. Young, energetic, wants to do the right thing, doesn't have any contracts with anybody, he's got a good job, doesn't intend to make any money off the political process. But the Republican town chair for Hartford, was doing everything he could to pull the votes away from John at the convention this weekend so that he could give them to the guy who was running against John, also advertises in his newspaper, and the Republican state chair apparently has a little band, and his band plays at this guy's restaurant. So they're all looking at, if I don't support him, he's not going to have me back. If I don't support him, he won't advertise in my little rag of a newspaper. So it's not about doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's about self-interest.
It's about self-preservation.
Yeah, self-interest. And I know there's quite a bit of, whenever I see someone and they say, well, I'm with the Republican Party, especially the young, I said, good, so you need to get involved with the Republican Party, because you know what? The Republican Party in Hartford are dying, okay? They need more young people involved in that process.
Dying? It's dead.
Dead.
You know how many delegates they had at the Republican
How much?
convention? How many do you think they had?
50?
4.
4, and they let
4 from Hartford.
And they let these young people just by the wayside?
Yeah. Well, it's I sent John a text message Friday night, the night of the.
Well, you know what? If he really wants to be involved, then he's gonna have to work hard and get where he needs to go.
Well, and he's a hard worker. He doesn't take no for an answer. But I sent him a text. I said, and he knew I supported him, but he also knew that you're not going to beat John Larson.
No, you're not gonna beat John at this point.
Unless he gets, and I'm saying this sarcastically, unless he gets caught in bed with a little child or something.
Yeah, no, you're not going to beat.
And even that may not get rid of him in a Democratic district.
I have to tell you, Larson is one of our best. Okay?
He is. He drives me nuts with his request for money.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to give it to him.
He has no real
But you
opponent.
don't have to give it to him.
No.
You give him once and that's it. The point with John,
Well, that's the problem. When you give it to him once, he gets you in his database, and you get emails almost weekly.
Yeah.
Oh, the time is here. We need your help. I can't do this without you.
Yeah,
Send
we
me
all
your
get
check.
that. We all get that. But the point is that he brings the money in the state.
And that's part of the thing that I said about Eric Coleman.
And he's
seniority has its benefits.
Yeah, and he's coming to the neighborhood. He does come around when it's election time. You can get him in your neighborhood anytime.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's like we've got a freshman congresswoman from west of here, and she's 5th district, Elizabeth Esty.
Mm-hmm.
Now I guarantee you, and the Secretary of Health gets a call from Elizabeth Esty or John Larson, which one do you think they're gonna jump on first? Larson has the seniority, and that is one of the things that has its
Right.
benefits. But
Right.
but here's some, I knew he wasn't gonna. He didn't have a chance, but I sent him a text Friday night. I said, "Have a good time. Show them the future of the Republican Party."
Yeah, we
because
definitely,
John is the future.
we definitely need those young people. And as a matter of fact, if I was a Republican and I was younger, I would say let's fight. Let's start putting a team of young people together to challenge what's there. Okay, and let me in. That's what I'm thinking. Let
And
me
that's
in.
what the
Don't keep me out.
Republicans. That's what the Republicans don't do. They don't let anyone in. It's still perceived as the old white men's club, and that's where the Republicans are missing the boat. I think, other than the fact that most minorities, their families have been Democrats for years, and they just assume that's the spot for them to go. I would say the minority community fits more into the Republican mold than they do the Democrat mold. The Democrats tend to want to keep people, and this is just a general comment, tend to want to keep people in poverty. Social programs, keeping you on the government payroll,
Yeah, they
things
need
like
to
that.
be empowered to get out of that.
And that's where,
But you see, you gotta keep the mentality is you gotta keep a sector of your community low, down, poor, and everything. Keep them down so they will always have to depend on
they're
you.
beholden. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we used to call that? Slavery.
Slavery. Okay. Well, we're still in slavery, in so many ways.
But people don't realize that. Once you start producing on your own, you're bringing in your own job, you're building your own business, you're providing for yourself instead of waiting for that money to be loaded on your EBT card or whatever by the government. When you're out there doing that for yourself, you have a much greater sense of satisfaction,
Right.
and the sky's the limit.
But that's why people need to be uplifted about things. So if we continue to keep them poor, stupid, dumb, and everything, then you don't expect.
Well, when do people realize
more.
that?
Well,
Whether it's a city council or the federal government, you could probably sit home and wait for the mailman to bring you your benefits every month, or you can go out and work. And if you want to take a vacation or you want to go on a trip, you work a little harder that month to bring more revenue in.
Yeah.
Now, isn't that a satisfying
Yes.
feeling, knowing that you can provide for yourself and somebody's not holding you under the thumb, holding you down?
Yeah, but it is a mentality that you have to, what it called self-esteem,
But
sense
people have
of
been
pride.
beaten down so much.
Yeah. But again, it's the individual person. It's up to the individual person to figure, well, do I want to continue to live this kind of way, or do I? I don't have to do anything. I'll just sit home and wait for my check, watch TV. Don't care what happened outside because you know what? I'm getting my check anyway, so who cares? So until you can get that person to say to themselves or him or herself, this is not for me. I need more than what is pro. So it's about self-pride.
She's in their class.
Yeah, it's about self-pride and I feel if you're getting something for free and all that, you should be able to do so many things out there. Get involved.
It really
the right
is the land
thing.
of opportunity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of government regulations and things, but if you want to go out there, the government's not going to say, "Oh, you're making too much. We're taking." Well, they do.
They
taking
do.
more.
If
But
you make a penny or two over what you're supposed to be making,
they take it. But
they'll tell you, no, excuse me.
but you have the
And that's
opportunity to
wrong
make it.
because, yeah, and that's wrong because if I need a little help to keep me going, that's where
Did you
it
get
should
invited?
happen.
Did you get invited to the mayor's seminar last week on small businesses?
I did say email, but I didn't go. Okay? Did you go?
I wasn't invited.
Okay. No, there was an email about the small, and even something with the
Okay.
CBG funding too. You can go there and here. Again, a certain sector of the nonprofit that get these CBG dollars.
Not based on performance.
No, there's no
Based on who you
performance.
know.
Yeah. Because a couple of them that I'm looking at and I'm saying, what is going on here? This person is not doing anything. Why are they getting this much money? So again, it's just one of those things that they do, and what are you going to do
Okay,
about
well,
that?
before we run out of time here, last,
I gotta let you know, my daughter graduated last Thursday, and she had a 4.0 with her, there's a master or something like that. Now
Oh,
she's
really?
going for her PhD in leadership. She wants to be a principal.
well, that's what her mother has, right?
Yeah, well.
We talked a lot about education today, but was it Monday or Tuesday? There was a shootout outside one of our schools, Sand Elementary School.
Okay, was it
Bullet.
intended for the school, or it was just some?
No, it was somebody,
having a
just
riff on
happened,
the
somebody just
outside?
happened to have a gunfight on the street.
Okay.
The bullets hit Sand School.
Mhm.
There was a class of kids outside for PE playing on the playground. The bullets start flying. There's bullet holes in the school where bullets have hit the school. And we're going to ban chocolate milk.
Yeah, the chocolate milk thing. Now, don't we have anything else to figure out than talking about banning
These
cheese?
kids in Hartford schools have a better chance of dying from lead poisoning from a bullet
than
they do from chocolate milk.
Okay.
And this is what our so-called leaders are focusing on.
Yeah, why are they? That kind of made me crazy when I saw that, and I said, don't they have anything better to think about?
And again, we talked a little while ago about the EBT cards and things like that. If we really want to focus on health and what's killing our kids,
Let them be outside playing at school, because most of these kids don't get an opportunity to be
if
outside.
you ever go to, whether it's Walmart or Stop and Shop, I think it's the 1st or the 15th of the month when the EBT cards are replenished.
See all the
You
junk
see all
that's in
the
those
junk food
baskets.
that goes through.
Yeah, those processed food.
The liter bottle or 2 liter bottles of sugary soda, the potato chips, the
Mm-hmm.
snacks, the junk. You don't see an awful lot of fruit and vegetables
Yeah,
going into the cart.
I know.
Or even somewhat
so
healthy
they
things
think
like
giving
yogurt.
the kids a little thing of this of milk in the morning at school or lunchtime is going to damage
And you know
them
what the issue was
Then
with
when
the
they're
chocolate
getting
milk?
all that stuff.
It wasn't sugar.
What
It
were they
wasn't worried
talking
about
about?
diabetes. The high sodium content.
Oh.
I guess they put, because of the chocolate or whatever, they more
So why
sodium.
don't they do this? Instead of talking about stop doing that, let's look at the content and figure out how under the health code we can maybe bring that sodium a level down.
Even just do a little thing with parents, with a dietitian. It's diabetes and high blood pressure in the minority community is huge. Diabetes in the Latin community or Hispanic community, more because of what they eat, the rice and things like that are high in starch. Starch and the carbohydrates turn into sugar in your body, you don't burn it off.
And especially if you're not burning it off.
In the African American community, it's more the fat, the sodium, the high cholesterol, the hypertension. So we need to be teaching people more about what a proper diet is before they end up having limbs
suppose
cut
our
off.
time has run out.
Yeah, it went by fast today.
Yeah, right?
So,
Well, everyone
Okay.
have a good day, and we'll see you again.
we won't be here next Monday because it's Memorial Day. So remember our veterans, remember the people that got out there and fought for us to have the right to sit here and spout off every Monday.
Yes.
So happy
Take care.
Memorial Day. We'll see you the week after next.
Take care, bye.